ever since, trying to build new beds and reorganize them in some sort of order. And a lot of you probably know that I needed a hip replacement. I'm glad to say I got that over with. November the 19th. It was a lot bigger challenge than I had expected, but hopefully it'll make life a little easier. And you may know that I collect the spotted and stippled daylilies, and of course stripes, but I think this is just a wee bit ridiculous.
Okay. I think Bob's getting that now. Oh, over there, okay.
And before I get started on this, I wanted to ask, who all is on Facebook? Well, I've heard about Facebook for a long time, and I really couldn't understand why everybody wanted to get on Facebook and tell everyone about their business and their lives. But I finally gave in and signed up, tried it for a while, and I still wasn't very impressed, so I shut it down. Then later I started it back up, and I've made a lot of friends that way that otherwise I would have never met. But I do want to warn you, you need to be careful out there. Let me tell you what happened to me here a while back. One morning I saw I had a new friend request, so I checked to see if any of my daylily buddies were friends with this fellow since I didn't recognize his name. Yeah, it looked like a new Facebook user, and it looked like he was trying to build up his friend list. So I did what I thought was the neighborly thing, and I accepted his friend request. Boy, he must have really been anxious to make friends, because just a couple of minutes later, he sent me a message and said hello. And I figured he was just wanting to introduce himself, so, or maybe ask about one of the daylily pictures that I have on Facebook, so I said hello back. Boy, I'll tell you, this guy was friendly. He told me he was looking for a woman to make him happy.
Oh my God.
He said he was divorced and had a 16-year-old daughter that was just dying to meet me. I thought, really? I was kind of amazed, since 5 minutes ago I didn't even know he existed. But I told him I was not interested in another relationship, that I'd just gotten out of a 33-year-long unhappy marriage. But he said it was fate that we had met, and surely I wouldn't throw away a chance for love. Don't bet on that. Then he told me he knew how to make a woman happy, and said that I was a beautiful woman. Really? Well, I was glad I had on my tall garden boots, because it was getting kind of deep. He asked me if I have meetings. No, not with you. Then he asked where I was and told me that he was in France. And then he asked me if I was in. In what? Then he asked what I was doing with my life, and I said, living it? Then he asked if we could be friends. No, not in this life. He asked if I had an address so that we could see each other while we talked. I kind of hated to think what he wanted to show me. But by then I was getting over this crap, and I decided that two of us could play this game. I told him I couldn't afford a webcam. I was too poor. Really, my dogs and cats and daylilies keep me broke. Really. I told him if he was really sincere about loving me, to send money so we could buy food. The jerk didn't even answer me. I waited an hour, and then I sent him one last message. I said I could see that he wasn't serious about loving me since he hadn't responded, so I was going to unfriend him. I told him I did not want another relationship with a man like that. And I checked with some of the other ladies that he was friends with, and I found out he was flirting with them too. Really? I was crushed. See, I knew I wasn't cut out for this love game. I told my brother-in-law, David, that I'd just had the shortest romance in history. He thought I needed to send the guy one of my dressing young pictures, and it would surely win him back. But that's another story, believe me. But now that I've found out he was already cheating on me behind my back, I don't want him. David said he figured it might take some time, but I'd eventually get over Jean-Pierre. So be careful on Facebook, or you may end up like me, with a broken heart. Or not. But staying focused. I was warned several years ago that if I wanted to accomplish anything, I'd need to stay focused. So I've been trying to arrange my bed so that I can focus on what's in that bed. I've put the tetraploids in front of the house and the diploids behind the house. In front I have a single tetraploid bed, a tet double bed, a toothy bed, and I will be adding a stipple and pattern bed this year. Plus the seedling bed is in the side yard. In back I have a diploid single bed, 2 diploid double beds, a mini single bed, a mini double bed, and I'll be adding a stipple and pattern bed this year. And on one side of the house I have the stripe bed. It's got both tets and dips since there's not very many of those. But on building the new beds, I decided to try to do it right. Do any of us really know exactly what's right? Well, I wanted to make these beds as low maintenance as possible, so I put down cardboard and I hauled in compost. I put the compost down about 4 inches deep and then planted in the compost. Then I've mulched with about 4 inches of good twice ground hardwood mulch, and I've been really pleased with the results so far. It's slow getting them set up, but very little weeding. Now this is showing my tetraploid single bed. I've got different shots of it to try to give you some kind of an idea of what it looks like. And if you can see the little wishing well on the bottom picture, all the way up in the left upper corner, that's the same wishing well that you're seeing in the top right picture. But I just tried to show different views. That bed holds 903 plants. And I did the rock work, and all of that has cardboard underneath of it. Then I've got the tetraploid double bed. It's currently got 271 plants, but I've figured out a way that I can add about 40 more at the far side, the back side, up at the top of the picture. There's a big rose bush planted there. I'm going to dig it up and stretch that bed out just a little bit more. And this is my stripey bed. It's got 23 plants currently, but I can still plant some more. That's my tetraploid toothy bed. It's currently got toothy tets and all the other stuff that I had in pots last fall, plus a bunch of baby seedlings. And so I'll have to dig those extra things up and move them to the correct beds this year after I get the beds built. But there's currently a little over 600 plants in that bed. Now this is the diploid singles. The top left picture is showing getting started on, well, I dug it out by hand and started laying the rocks underneath that. And then just shows a little bit of the progress as I'm going along. On the far right upper picture, you can see where part of it's been freshly mulched, and I didn't have it finished at that point. Of course, it's not finished yet, but we're getting there. Now, the bottom photograph would be kind of a continuation. Of course, you can see the circular little water garden. And if you look at the top picture, the rocks are all the way up at the top of the grade behind there, and the yellow line in this bottom picture is showing you where it will come on down, and I'll have a path that will be, I can go out to the shed. The other yellow line is going to be the top of the one diploid double bed, which you'll see it here in just a little bit. But I've got 314 plants planted there, and there should be room for about 700 or 800 plants when it's done. And this is the south diploid double bed. It's got 169 plants. One picture is taken from standing right by the house, and the other one is taken from the back side. And this is where I've started my second diploid double bed, what I'll call my north bed. As you can see, I've got a lot of stuff I have to move, but I was kind of hurting. I had to have a place to plant some more stuff, so I put together part of it last fall. I was kind of working against the clock because I was scheduled for the surgery. But you can see the diploid double south bed on the right side of the sidewalk. This one on the left has currently got 63 plants, but I figure it'll probably hold around 300 when I get it done. Now I've got the yellow line drawn in to show where this one will go. It'll curve around the little dogwood tree that you see there. And the top of the yellow line will be, I guess, the south side or the west side of the path. And here's the mini double bed on the left side of the sidewalk. And you can see the bed closest to the bottom. That would actually be the diploid double, but then you can see the two beds back by the sidewalk. The one on the left is the diploid, or the mini doubles, and the one on the right is the mini singles. And that's the mini single bed. It's currently got 122 plants in it. And I've still got more to build this spring. I'll have a bed for the diploid patterns, the diploid stipples, the tetraploid patterns, the tetraploid stipples. And I'm building a new bed for the seedlings, and then seedlings that are under evaluation. And I thought I would show you some of the other things that I like to play with. The two top pictures are water gardens that I built when I lived in Ohio. I really kind of felt bad about leaving them, but I did take the little grist mill down that you see in the left picture and took it with me to Indiana. So I'm planning to build another water garden here in Indiana, hopefully this year. Depends on how I get along with these beds, but the bottom picture is a little fountain that I built in Indiana for Mom and Dad before I moved over here. I really was building it for my mom, never imagined that my dad would even like it, but he loved it. And I was really glad that I built it when I did, because he passed away just 7 months after I built it. And then I have what I call a fantasy garden. We had this pine forest out there that we didn't know what to do with. And I asked my mom if she would be agreeable to me putting some gnomes out there. So I also planted hostas and ferns and other shade plants. But I'll have to say this has really kind of gotten out of hand. What started out as just a handful of these gnomes, now I have a collection of over 100. I've just shown a few pictures of some of my more favorite ones. I love the one taking the bath. And of course I've got the watcher of the garden. It hasn't done a whole lot of good because we do definitely have problems with prowlers. But that hasn't managed to scare them off.
Aren't they cute?
I've got gnomes climbing up in trees, hanging from trees. I've got the top middle is a little bed, if you want to call it that, with geodes surrounding it. And those poor little guys are in there with hose and everything else they can get a hold of, trying to take care of those morel mushrooms. And then the top right picture, you get to see just a little bit of a gnome house that I built, which is basically a tree stump with a door in it. But I built that in the basement. It was made out of hypertufa. And then I've added some fairies. I showed one of them, but I've added, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them here over the winter. And the mushrooms I made myself. They're hypertufa. And I think I've got probably about 50 of those. Then we've got some little guys down here that are cutting some wood, I guess. So, of course, I had to cut some wood so that it looked like they were really busy. And we've got some little guys trying to get some water. But this year, there's going to be a lot of new additions in this fantasy garden. The gnome collection has grown to over 100 gnomes, and I've added several fairies and a lot of animals. I've got wolves, coyotes, squirrels, rabbits, possums, a beaver, a skunk, and then a lot of my son's woodworking creations. He's built 3 outhouses for the gnomes I have that were taking care of business. And then there's a shelter house with a picnic table and the gazebo, as you can see. He built a grist mill and a covered bridge.
Oh,
And of course that means I need to add a fake stream and waterfalls, but my real pride and joy is this log cabin.
beautiful.
It's about, I think 22 inches wide from one side to the other. And it's
Beautiful.
complete with a little miniature rocking chair that he built, which I've got a gnome sitting in for the front
Unbelievable.
porch. The chimney and the foundation, I made that because I thought it looked kind of bare without it. That is styrofoam insulation, the big sheets of styrofoam insulation, and the widest that I could find was 2 inches thick. I didn't think that was quite wide enough to make the chimney, so I glued a couple of pieces together, and I used my wood burning tool and carved what I hope looked something like stones. But anyway, that's attached with let's see, what is it? Silicone. That's what I was trying to think of. And there's the little shelter house with the picnic table, and don't look, but if you do, you'll see a couple of little guys taking care of business there. But anyway, I think it's going to be kind of funny when we get all these extra things added in.
Yeah,
And would love to show it to anybody that wants to come visit.
really cute.
But as far as daylilies, I thought I would share some of the stipples and spots. I probably got the largest collection of the unusual color patterns that you'll find.
Yep.
When I first started collecting them, most people seemed to think I was nuts, but of course they were probably right. But I'll share some pictures with you to show you the different unusual patterns that are out there. This is just a small number of the collection that I've got. Last count, I had about 165 stipples and 25 stripes. Those are just the registered plants. I've also got stippled and striped seedlings, so I'm sure I'd have over 200 stipples and about 50 stripes if I counted the seedlings. I'll show you some of the seedlings that I'm evaluating as well. And here's some stripes, and you've probably heard of most of them. The ones on top, of course, are registered plants, and the ones on the bottom are seedlings. I'm kind of thrilled with that first one on the bottom. Wasn't exactly what I expected. That was Pitter Patter and Pink Stripes. And then the second one, of course, is Indy Misty Love and Pink Stripes. And then we've got a Pink Stripe seedling crossed with a lovely Marjorie seedling. Old Termite and Pink Stripes. And then the last one is an Elaine Seifert Future. She hopes to register this coming year. Where the stripes came from, nobody knows. It's out of Voices Carry and Swallowtail Kite. And every bloom is striped. And here's some more stipples. Of course, I had to get a little carried away here this winter. I had to buy this new Lotta Dada.
Yeah.
And Stippled Statement is one of my very favorites. Of course, I like all of them. And, of course, we start off with Peppered Leopard, which our own Bob Faulkner is a hybridizer. And, see, the last two on the top row are Chad Bush introductions that I just had to add this winter. And then on the bottom, those are some seedlings. The one on the left is one that I bought from William Marchant. He decided that he was going to quit dealing with the toothies and put that on the lily auction, so I got a little carried away, but I definitely brought it home. The one on the bottom right was a total surprise, but I love it.
Oh, God, that one's beautiful.
I don't know why it ended up being stippled, but it did, and I'm awful partial to it.
Yeah.
And then here are some spots and broken patterns. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Pitter Patter. That's an old daylily, but every bloom will have some sort of spots. I mean, it kind of looks sick, but That's really what it looks like. It's always spotted. And then Undefinable will be here sometime this next month. That's Nicole DeVito.